As we start the new year, we often contemplate resolutions and adopting new behaviors into our lives. Good mentoring relationships can have an amazingly powerful impact on both our personal and professional lives, but a bad one can lead to a devastating outcome. Learn how to identify a great match in today's episode with Mark Timm. Mark has been a serial entrepreneur and exponential thinking practitioner for nearly 2 decades. He started more than 24 companies, several of which have multiplied and been sold. His experience of dealing with entrepreneurial challenges has fueled his passion for helping people balance the demands of family life and business. I'm your host, Chris Parker, and this is the Easy Pray Podcast. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the Easy Pray Podcast today.
I'm so glad to be here. So glad to be here, Chris.
So mentoring is one of those things that I've learned a ton from throughout my life. I think from the business perspective over the last couple of years. And then in my personal life, I've had a variety of mentors and mentored people. And some of it's gone really good and some of it's gone really, really bad. Can you give us a little background about what mentoring means to you?
Yeah, I really can. I mean, obviously, I wrote the book Mentor to Millions, my co-author, Kevin, because we've had a lot of mentors in our life. And Chris, I'm going to be here to tell you, not every mentor I've had turned out to be the mentor that I needed or that I thought I should have. So we wanted to write this book because we wanted everybody to understand what mentorship can do for you, but also how to find the right mentor and what to watch out in getting the wrong mentor. And so in my life, I was very fortunate to have Zig Ziglar as a mentor when I was a young man. And that's a pretty good place to start when it comes to mentorship. And so, but not all mentors are kind of like Zig Ziglar. Ironically, Kevin Harrington also had Zig Ziglar, and that's how we met, not through Zig himself, but because we both had the same mentor. When he passed away, his children, this is how legacy works. His children actually introduced us to each other. And so that mentorship legacy carried on, and we wouldn't have been able to write the book if it wasn't for having that mutual mentor. But I know a lot about it. I love to talk about it, and I'm really fine to get in the good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesomeness of everything mentorship.
So let's jump right into it. Let's start with the bad of mentorship and where it can go wrong and how a bad mentor can really cause issues.
Yeah. So where mentorship goes bad is when you think you found the right mentor and they turn out to be exactly the wrong mentor. And often where that comes is that you see somebody and they've achieved a certain element of success and you're like, boy, if I could just have that person as a mentor, they could really help me. But you forget that there are some critical elements that you must find in a mentor. And if you choose the wrong mentor, then they'll send you down the wrong path. And oftentimes you don't figure out it's the wrong mentor until you're way down that path. Okay. And it can cost you a lot of money. It can cost you a lot of time. It can cost you some relationships. And so, it can be severely costly to have the wrong mentor. So what do I mean by the wrong mentor? In my opinion, there's a few things you've got to look for in a mentor. Okay. Number one, don't look for someone that has all the success that you're looking for, because that person may only know how to succeed in one area. I want to find a mentor, and I want to encourage everybody listening to make sure that they ask their potential mentor about their failures. You absolutely, Chris, want a mentor that has failed. And I'll tell you why. Because if they fail, then they have experience in multiple areas. If they've only succeeded in one area, they're only going to give you advice in one area, and that may not be the area for you. So now you're headed down this path, and it's the wrong path because it's the only path that they know. And you want someone that's going to let you fail, because we learn from our failures, but they're going to be there to pick you up. So you want to make sure you got a mentor that's failed. The second thing is that, last time I checked, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. And you want a mentor that listens. Okay. If you've got a mentor that just tells you everything, oh, you got to do this. Oh, go do this. Oh, go do this. And they're not really listening to you to see what your unique, gift to the world is and what you're trying to accomplish, then you're going to go down all these different paths because it's the only paths that they've gone down. So they're not really taking the time to learn who you are and help you to become everything that you were put on this earth to be. And so you're looking for a mentor that's failed. You're looking for a mentor that listens. And then the last thing is you're looking for a mentor that has a mentor. you're looking for somebody that's continuing to learn, because learning is a lifelong process. I don't want to be coached by anybody that's not got a coach. I don't want to have a mentor that's not being mentored by somebody. And so make sure that they are a lifelong learner. Otherwise, you're catching them and they've plateaued. They're not going to take you beyond where they're at. And you want a mentor that wants to see you go way beyond anything that they've achieved as well.
Gotcha. Those are great. Have you had any, without naming names, any bad mentor experiences, and what did that look like?
Yeah, I definitely have had some bad mentor experience, and I got into a new industry, and I really felt like I needed a mentor in the industry, and I sought out. Here's a guy that's really successful, and I said, hey, I'm new to this industry. Can you mentor me? Can you help me? Oh, absolutely, I can help you. But basically, what he did was he told me everything I was doing wrong, and so it made me think I was incapable of being in this industry or incapable of being successful. And only over time did I realize that he was telling me everything I was doing wrong because he felt that everything he had done was the only way to do it right. And so, and really because he didn't have the broader experience of any other industry but this industry. And he was the type of person that just really felt like his way was the only way. And so, he wasn't really open to any other ways of doing it. And so it was very demoralizing to have him as a mentor, because really I just wanted to get out of the industry. I'm like, if I'm that bad at this, then I probably should get out. And so instead of saying, hey, look, you've got some real genius in this area, let's pour some gas on this and let's don't do any more of this. There really wasn't anything he could find that I was doing well. And I thought it was more a reflection of my ability, when in reality, his view of the world was anything that's not done the way I do it is wrong. And that's not really the kind of mentor you want. There's 100 ways to get to a destination. Not every way is the best way, but a lot of ways are good. And so as a mentor, you want to encourage people to go down their path to get to that destination, because then they have ownership and then they feel more confident. And not everybody has the same resources that you do to be able to do it. So I'm a big one on be an encourager, find ways to help make it work instead of just tell someone how badly. And in the end, I actually ended up, changing and pivoting and not pursuing, that business venture because it was so, just kind of a bad experience. And unfortunately, I've leveraged and put a lot of my, let's say, view on this one person. And with some wisdom now, I realize I should have got the opinion of more people, or I should have asked more questions before asking them to mentor me.
So when you say getting the opinions of more people, do you recommend having multiple mentors for either one area of life or different areas of your life?
Yeah, I like to have more than one mentor, because I don't think one mentor is capable of helping you in every facet of life. Now, sometimes you just have somebody that's very well-rounded and they can advise you. But I tend to have a mentor in my finances. I tend to have a mentor for business growth. I tend to have a personal mentor either in my faith and family. And so I really don't have more than 3 people that I'm interacting with in that kind of a way, because you can't have, 50 mentors, because you can't implement. One of the keys to being a successful mentee is you have to be the mentor's best student. Well, you can't be the best student of 50 mentors, but I like to get mentors that have expertise in areas I don't.
Gotcha. So when you're talking finance, are you talking personal finance or like business finance?
Typically, when I'm talking finance, I'm at different seasons of life. Listen, when I just started as an entrepreneur, my personal finances and my business finances were the same thing, so when I was getting financial advice, it was all the same. I'm in a different season in life. So I've got someone that's really mentoring me on my personal finances. And I still, from time to time, will reach out and talk to some people that are elevated from me in the business finance world. But I don't need as much help on the business finance side as I do on the personal finance side, as I'm now looking to how do I protect the assets that I've built over the years. So it just kind of depends on the season of life, where you're at. I mean, early in your endeavors, it's all the same, right? I mean, $1 in was $1 the same, no matter where, I was at. And so, but now I'm a little later in life. And so I've separated business and personal a little bit more.
Gotcha. So how do you find so we know what a bad mentor looks like. How do we make sure that we find the right ones? Is there, where's this pool of mentors that we can go to? And part of that is how do we give back to them as well?
Well, let me step back and just say that most people, come to me and say, how do I find a mentor, period? Like they don't even know how to find a mentor. And so, so it's like it begins by having some vulnerability and having some courage to just raise your hand and say, I'm ready to be mentored. Because a lot of people, they want a mentor, they need a mentor, but they're not ready to be mentored. So it even goes a step further back and say, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I ready to be mentored? Am I ready? Am I ready to be coached and taught? Am I ready to implement because you may not be, and it's okay. I mean, the last thing you want to do is throw a Hail Mary and get the right mentor and you're not ready for them. Okay. I mean, it was what Winston Churchill once said. There comes a time in every man's life where he's tapped on the shoulder. He's asked to do something extraordinary. And what a shame if that moment finds that man unprepared or unqualified for what could have been his finest hour. It's one of my favorite quotes. Well, what a shame if the mentor that you want, is there and you're not ready.
Yeah.
So make sure you're ready to be mentored. That's number one. Number two, have the courage and confidence to raise your hand. We've done many of these interviews talking about Mentor to Millions, where after the interview's over, the host says, hey, would you stay on for 5 minutes? And then they say, hey, would you mentor me? And we're like, what are you talking about? Why didn't you ask us on air? You're like, well, this is my community and they kind of look to me as being a mentor and I didn't want them to think I needed a mentor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you blew the biggest opportunity of your life, because they're all sitting out there going, I'm too afraid to ask for a mentor. Look at Chris. He's got it all together. He doesn't need a mentor, but here I am. I need a mentor. Well, guess what? We all need mentors. So have the courage and confidence to raise your hand and say, I'm ready. Okay, whatever stage of life you're at, you're ready to be mentored by somebody. And then put yourself out there. Be courageous enough to put it to your inner circle. You already know. All right, are you ready for this? This is profound. You already know everything you need to know to accomplish everything that you need to accomplish in this world. Okay? Just marinate on that for a second. You already know everybody you need to know. Thing you were put on this earth to accomplish. Now, are they in your immediate inner circle? Maybe not. But your immediate inner circle knows somebody who you need to know. Yeah. So if you put it out there to your world, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Okay? When you're ready to be mentored and you put that out to your inner circle and you're vulnerable enough, your mentor will show up. And so, so that's kind of the pre-game your routine that you need to be saying to yourself and making sure you're ready. And then once you're ready, then you need to be confident enough to ask for, somebody to be your mentor, and then be courageous enough to interview them. Make sure they're the right fit so you don't end up with a bad mentorship experience. And so, so raise your hand. Okay, so there's a formula. It goes like this. Okay, get the right mentor. All right. Get the right mentor. Then you got to become that mentor's best student. That's step number 2. Then step number 3 is you have to take everything you've learned and you got to teach it to someone else. That is the exponential formula of mentorship. And Chris, it's like this brick wall. All right. This brick wall behind me, a brick wall is strong. We build houses out of it. We build foundations out of it. But the brick wall is a lot like a mentorship journey. The mentor gives you the bricks. Your job as a mentee is to collect the bricks, okay, stack them up. But anybody can knock over a brick wall if it doesn't have the concrete and the mortar. What locks it all in place is when you teach someone else. Mm-hmm. So the mentors give you the bricks, you collect the bricks, you stack them up the way you want, and then you teach someone else. And when you do that, you've built a foundation that you can build a business on, you can build a family on, you can build relationships on, okay, you can build your life on.
I've heard that said that like the best way to learn something is to learn it with the attitude of I'm going to teach this to somebody else.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right.
And so how does this apply to family as well?
Well, my favorite topic, you just crossed over. So in the book, Mentor to Millions, that we've been talking about here, every chapter actually ends with how I take all the business lessons that I learned from Kevin Harrington, and then I apply them to my family. Because in all reality, right, the book starts with me actually sitting at the end of my driveway, not wanting to go home. Well, the reasons you don't want to go home are I filed bankruptcy, I lost a lot of money. But in my life, the reason I didn't want to go home is because I had one of the best days of my life, business-wise. I had my biggest sale ever. I made decisions with confidence, but I was going home to a world of chaos and confusion. And I knew that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't who I was supposed to be. I knew that wasn't how it was supposed to be. And so that driveway moment was when my life changed. And I realized, what if I was going home to the most what if the business I was going home to was the most valuable business I will ever own, ever operate, ever even be a part of? And that business was my, what if everything I was doing in business was practice so that I could perfect what I'm doing at home? Because I'll tell you, there's no more important mentorship job that you have than to mentor your family, than to be the mentor you've been put on this earth to be for your family. And I believe that if you're good at anything in work, you can be that good at home. If you're good at graphic design, then go home and create a logo for your family. Do that with your family. Okay. I mean, if you're good at meetings, then start having intentional meetings with your family. I mean, we did that every night for years on Sunday night. Okay, so truly, apply what you've learned, be the mentor at home. It makes all the difference. What happens is that you start mentoring your family and your kids when they grow up. I've got young adults now as kids. I mean, my kids have left the home, and I've only got one left at home. And so, until COVID hit, and they all came back. But anyway, but my kids call me, they text me because I'm their mentor, and I get to mentor them now for the rest of their life. So it applies just as much at home as it does in business.
Are there specific examples that you can share of where some of those business lessons have really paid off in the home?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'll give you an example. So I was using personality profile, test for team building in my company. We happen to use one called the DISC personality profile, DISC. So I'm using that to help, my team synergize. And all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, the most valuable team I'll ever have is the one at home. So I literally bought 8 extra DISC profiles, and I brought them home and had my whole family take the DISC personality profile. And then I had my kids one by one, week after week at our family meeting, give a presentation on who they were, that they were a D with an I, or they were an S or a C. And the coolest thing of all was that when it was done, my kids got to see that they're not just, let's just say, what do kids say about each other? Weird. Okay. They are just wired different.
Yeah.
So their brothers and sisters aren't just annoying. They're just wired different. And it gave them permission to just be themselves. And it gave us a talking platform to say, hey, the reason your brother or sister gets on your nerves is because they're wired different. They were just made different than you, because remember, their personality profile is a DI and you're an SC. You couldn't be more opposite of each other. That's why you sometimes get on each other's nerves. But this is also why this sibling is good at this and this sibling is good at this. And so, it was a simple thing that we were doing every day in our business, and I brought it home, and it just opened their eyes to this cool tool that Dad had that helped our family be the better version of ourselves.
That's really cool. It sparked a question when you talked about being wired differently. And there's definitely, my wife and I are similar in a lot of ways, and we have some differences. But my mentor he thinks differently than I do. He's just wired totally different. Do you find that is a strength or a weakness, a benefit, or not, having your mentor or mentee being wired differently?
There's really a lot of different circumstances. Oftentimes we end up finding a spouse or a significant other that's like opposite of us. My wife and I, we took the Strength Finders test, and there's 33 different strengths that they evaluate you on. My number one strength is her number 33. Okay. Her number one strength is my number 33. Like, we couldn't be more polar opposites. But sometimes in a mentorship relationship, you need to have this know, like, and trust. And so sometimes it's good to find somebody that is wired at least in the same swim lane as you, because then they understand better and you develop this like, if you will. Having someone that's completely opposite of you as a mentor could be a little problematic, because they're not your spouse, they're not your significant other, and so there can be some friction there, in that scenario. And so the biggest thing of all is that you find out who they are. Okay, I like to use that equation, and I went over it real fast, so I'll break it down. You know them, meaning you get to know them. Mm-hmm. You know what they stand for. You know what's important to them. And then you decide you like them, because the worst thing you can do is have a mentor that you don't like. That works for a few meetings, but then it's like you're just coming up with excuses because you just don't like them. So you get to know them and say, I really know this person, and I know this person can help me. I like this person. I mean, we like each other. And then the last piece is, and it's probably the most important piece, is I trust this person. So when you can check the boxes of I know this person, I like this person, and I trust this person, there's a great mentorship scenario and great mentorship relationship. Whether they're wired the same as you, whether they're wired different than you, doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is you know them, you like them, you trust them, and therefore you're going to implement what they say. You're going to look forward to the next time you meet with them. You're going to feel bad if you haven't implemented. You're going to have some, you want that feeling of accountability, and so I prefer to go with the know, like, and trust over any other scenario.
It's funny that you mention accountability. I think in today's society, there are certain areas of life where accountability is this great thing. If you've got a gym buddy, not that anyone goes to gyms right now, but if you've got a workout buddy, the accountability is there. Hey, did you do your whatever? Did you up your weight? Did you run when we weren't around each other? But it seems to be like when we get to our personal lives and family, accountability becomes almost this no-no, that you don't ask people what's going on in your family in the same way that you do at work or in the gym. Do you find that as a challenge for some people with mentoring?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I got to tell you, you asked about bad mentorships, good mentorships. I mean, a mentor that won't hold you accountable is a bad mentor. I believe everybody can be a mentee, but not everybody can be a mentor. And so, that's why we wrote this book, Mentor to Millions. The millions is about impact. It's not about money. And so you do need to find the right mentor in your life, and then you need to become the right mentor. Okay. That's kind of the magical equation that we're talking about. But anyone can learn, all right, from someone, but it takes a special somebody to be a good mentor, because they've got to have some wisdom. They've got to listen. They've got to be able to teach, and then they've got to be able to hold you accountable. And if they can't do any one of those three, it's going to be tough. They could be the smartest guy in the room. If they can't teach their wisdom, they're not a good mentor. But if they're good at teaching but not holding accountable, they're not going to be a good mentor. You need somebody that's courageous enough and confident enough in the relationship to hold you accountable, because we're human beings. We weren't put on this earth to be alone, but sometimes we need a little kick in the pants of accountability.
Yeah, I know that one of the things that my mentor has been great about doing is helping me to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That so much of my life, it's been like, okay, I just want things nice and easy. I want everything in its place, and I don't want to disturb those little things. And he's been good about nudging me into this uncomfortability zone, and not so much that I've fallen off a cliff and that I hate him over it, but enough that it's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. I see how you're getting me out of my skin a little bit.
Yep. That's a good mentor. You've got a good mentor there. So
I believe he is.
As long as you are becoming a good mentor and you're his best student, then you are well on your way to impacting millions, because that's what we talk about. You follow that formula and you will impact millions of people in your lifetime.
So I like that idea of working to become a mentor. So if we don't have those skills that you talked about earlier, how do we learn to become a better mentor?
Hey, I think listening is a definite skill. So what I said earlier is you need to find a mentor that listens. Okay, so that's definitely a skill that you can work on. I also said find a mentor that's failed. I don't propose you go out and fail a whole bunch so that you can be a mentor, but my guess is if you're living life, you've failed some, and you probably failed more than you've succeeded. Most successful people have, and so it kind of is a given. The question is, have you learned from your failure? And so have you taken some inventory on what you've done in your life that you do differently? And so that's a good way to be a mentor. And then, again, to be a good mentor, you've got to be able to share your wisdom. You can't just collect it all yourself. That's the point. You've got to share it. And, here's what it boils down to is that there's a quote by Zig Ziglar, and it goes like this: you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. You want a mentor that believes in that quote. You want a mentor that lives that quote, because really good mentors are abundant thinkers. They believe if they help enough other people that good things will happen to them. And oftentimes it does, and it happens in an exponential way, meaning for every person they help, it seems like times 10 comes back to them. That's abundant thinking versus scarcity thinking. And great mentors have abundant thinking where they will share without any reservation their wisdom.
I like that. It's almost that I'm just willing to give whatever I can out into the universe, give whatever I can out to other people, and hope not necessarily. And I've known people who are only doing that with like, well, because I know you're going to give back to me. But it's really got to
right?
be that mentality of like, I'm going to give. I hope it comes back to me, but I'm going to give unconditionally, and that other people benefit from it.
Yep, that's exactly right.
So, are there any particular success stories that you have about mentoring, and maybe tied in with the pandemic that we're all
Yeah, I
so
mean, so
exhilaratingly going through?
the book is about one of my mentors. It's about Kevin Harrington. He was the original shark on Shark Tank. So he did 175 different segments on Shark Tank. So if you're a fan of Shark Tank, you saw him in the first few seasons. And so here's a guy who had taken businesses to over $100 million, 20 businesses. So I had him as a mentor. And one of the things we talk about in the book is we talk about aggressive curiosity. And what that means is that where are the eyeballs? Where are people looking? So during the pandemic, here I am, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I start thinking, okay, where are people looking? Well, everybody started looking in e-commerce. Well, I had an e-commerce business, but it wasn't my priority business. But let me tell you something. By March 15th, it was my priority business. And I'm here to tell you that business is up. At one point, it was up 500%. Then it was up 1,000%. Then it was up 1,500%. I quit keeping track of it. And I had two business ventures that completely shut down as a result of COVID. All of the staff of those business ventures are now working for the e-commerce company. And so, so it was like what I did was I took the lessons I learned from my mentor and I followed the eyeballs. Everybody was looking at e-commerce. And so I took this small business I had in e-commerce, and now it is the biggest business that I have because people's eyeballs are there. People who weren't shopping e-commerce started shopping e-commerce. People that were are shopping more.
Yeah.
And so I just put myself in the path of the eyeballs, and my business started to blow up. The second thing I did is I put a dream team in place. I took the very best people that I had and I created a dream team. And we have another chapter in the book all about the dream team. So I literally just pulled out the lessons I learned from Kevin, implemented them, and I am well on my way to my first $100 million business because of the lessons I learned from my mentor. And so, so that's a direct result of lessons I've learned. Now, I'm also going to tell you that as a result of becoming very public with this book, I actually have agreed to mentor a few individuals that are high-performing entrepreneurs that have succeeded in business, but they're not having the same success at home. And I've helped them take their success in business and apply it at home. And now they're winning at home instead of just winning at work. And I love that because that's really kind of the fabric of who I am as a human being. I feel like I was put on this earth to help entrepreneurs, to help people in the work world win at home like they win at work. And I'm thrilled to be able to help them do that as well. And they're seeing results at home now like they were getting at work. And that's what I want everybody to experience. If you're good at something in work, you can be that good at home.
I appreciate that balance. I've known a lot of people that are very successful in business, but their home lives are
A wreck.
a train wreck. And some of it is because of the success that they've had in the business. They've been so singularly focused at work that whatever goes on at home, nope, there's no mentoring, there's no learning.
It's sad. I mean, and I can only tell you about it because I got it wrong longer than I got it right. But I know what it feels to get it wrong, and I know what it feels like to get it right. And unfortunately, I've seen many people, some of which I would consider friends, before I figured this out, I watched them careen into that train wreck and actually lose a lot of what they had built, personal relationship wise. And so because they started their business to be the mom or dad that they were put on this earth to be, and then the business took over. And then the business was the only place they were winning. And so they spent more and more and more and more of their time because it feels good to win. It doesn't feel good to lose. And then ultimately they realized at some point they've lost it all in the personal department. And I don't want to see anyone in that department lose it all. And that's where you have to learn that it's not about balance. It's about integration. And that's what I did. I just integrated my family and my business so that we could win in both areas.
It's all because I've heard of that discussed before, that there isn't work-life balance. There's just life.
Yep. Yeah, the work-life balance is a holy grail. It's a quest for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Okay, you can search your whole life and you're never going to find it. You're just on a continual journey to find it. And when you realize that it doesn't exist, then you give yourself permission to say, hey, let's just integrate this thing. Let's bring these two worlds together and let's integrate them. And let me bring my family, my first and my best, and so that they can help me be my best in my work world. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah, no, my wife and I, when we're out walking the dog, she talks to me about what's going on at her work. I talk about what's going on at my work. And it really helps both of us to be a great sounding board for the other of,
Yep.
sometimes just even the process of talking through decisions verbally with someone, even if they don't know the specifics, the nitty gritty specifics,
Yep.
just that process of talking it through, hearing yourself speak, you're like, ooh, oh no, that's a bad idea. Oh,
Bad
no,
idea.
no, 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 no. I don't want to do that.
I hear you.
So where can people find out more about you in the book?
Yeah, so well, the book is available, Mentor to Millions. It's out now. You can buy it anywhere books are sold, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, etc. But one of the things we wanted to do, Chris, coming on the show, I talked to Kevin, is we did something really special for some people who pre-ordered, and we're going to offer that to anybody in your community as well. If they'll go to Kevin Mentor, Kevin for Kevin Harrington, kevinmentor.com. We're actually going to give 30 days of mentorship to anybody that buys the book and then goes there and shows us they bought the book. And so if they'll go to Kevin Mentor after they bought the book, put in their information, we'll give them 30 days of mentorship because we want everybody to experience mentorship so that they'll have the confidence and courage to go out and get mentors in their life and then be the right kind of mentor. Remember, if you have the right mentors, you become their best student, and then you mentor others, then you are well on your way to impacting millions. And we want that journey to start right now.
That's totally awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the Easy Pray podcast today.
Hey, thanks, Chris, for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Easy Pray podcast. Please support the podcast by leaving a review at easypray.com/review. Notes and a transcript of this episode with Mark Timm can be found at easypray.com/45.